This is a part 2 of the conclusion, and I want to read you just a little bit. The brain contains 86 billion nerve cells, joined together by 100 trillion connections. This is more than the number of stars in the Milky Way. That's, the galaxy that we are part of. In other words, humans are never going to understand nature or the genetic complex that is nature. But they're mutilating it anyway, because the human want is to play God. They can't play God. They can only play devil. They can only play Satan. That's their game. That's their plan. That's the purpose. That's the reality that arrogance, apathy, and disrespect create. These are just forms of hatred that will not let life survive. So we have to do what we have to do in order to create the miracles of life are real. This is a creation of thought. There is no alteration of that. This is a miracle of life on earth. And you can disagree with that, you can believe that, but you can't prove anything different. And evolution is, of course, just a dump in the sewer. Just puking and vomiting shit. So we have to honor the fact that we are alive. We have to honor that with law. We have to honor that with the future. That means you have to stand up and fight for your world. You have to sign your name to the fact that we need redress of grievances in this USA. The demand that we are, the owners of this nation. We are. And as a democracy, we have the final say. As I was trying to tell you before, while we've hired employees in all forms of government by election, those who make decisions for us, we did not hire the presidency or the vice presidency. Those were selected for us by the Electoral College. And that means if they don't do what they swear to do, which is to obey and enforce constitutional law, then we have every right and we have every responsibility and we have every need to remove them from their office. And it doesn't have to be anything other than we the people have decided this. Because in redress, our democracy is enforced. The courts have no claim to any interpretation of the Constitution. Under the Constitution is where they begin. Under it, not over it. And of course, those who lead us are not our rulers. And the righteous, of course, they want rules. And because if you do anything wrong with a rule, you get to be ruled over. You get to be thrown in jail or whatever. So you have to be very careful with rules, and you have to understand that every law is about governing what is to be peace and happiness in society. And you can only get there with justice and fair play. And that means we must rule over our judiciary. We must. And we do that, and then they have the opportunity to do better. Because, we are their employers then, not the power that be. We have to grade them. We have to remove anyone that does not exhibit good behavior in our constitutional authority to govern our society for ourselves. The net effect of it is that there are only so many words that matter. There's no point in me going on because there are only so many words that matter. And what you believe from those words is whatever it is that you will believe. Now, I can't change what you believe. Only you can do that. But I'm going to tell you, as I have told you, that is only truth decides, because only truth survives. And that's true for eternity as well. Only truth will survive. So it is very important that you understand, investigate, and determine what is or is not true. And of course, I tried to educate you, but that failed. Because, like your pharmaceutical ads prove in this USA, you don't listen to the words. You don't. You watch the video screen and you make a judgment based upon the video screen. Because if you made a judgment on the words, then the words would cause you some intent to investigate a little more, but you don't. So we have to have an image for whatever reason. You have to have some kind of leader to point at for I don't know why. Grow up, wake up, think for yourself. These things don't require a leader. But you won't do that. So here I am for a last cause, last time. I'm not going past, when Trump gets to be in power. I'm hoping that he will do better than what his rhetoric has been. And I haven't listened to very much, but it hasn't been presidential at all. So I don't have much faith in him. But he might surprise us. He might. But he might not. So we need to be prepared to defend ourselves from an invasion of those who would make this country into Nazi Germany. We need to be prepared because we don't have a chance to go back. Because once an army of, what are basically dogs, me too, me too, me too, wanting power for themselves, as is Nazi. That's the basic meaning of Nazi. We want power for ourselves, regardless of rights or laws or anything else. So we have to prepare to govern ourselves. Because if our president does not obey the Constitution, which is, try reading it for a change, the preamble and the amendments are basically what control our lives, and there is some direction within the other part of the document, but the Bill of Virginia is called the Virginia Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. If you read those as well, you'll have an understanding of what this nation is supposed to be. And they really did a fairly good job of creating the document that would govern this nation. It didn't mean you're going to be wealthy, but resources determine that. So, and decisions determine that. And the reality of what you believe is wealthy determines that. Because belief really does govern you. It should not govern you, because belief can be anything you want. You can be have the most numbers in all the world and still believe that you are poor or rich or whatever it is you think. It doesn't matter. You can think of eternity in any way you want. It doesn't matter, because you can believe whatever you want. But only truth decides at the end. Only truth can survive. That's a fact. That's a law. That's a reality that you cannot escape. Only truth will decide. And I guess we should cover the reality of, Trump is certainly likely to ridicule and what have you. And so, as far as I am concerned, as far as your understanding of me goes, I have opened the door to the spiritual world of female, and I know that is, actually very hard to do. That is, it's a whole long thing to get there, and you can't go. But the end result of it is that she balanced me and created, go back to the law, stay there, don't move away from it, and that's what I did do. And of course, the end result of that is that that is in my writing, as back here on the wall, and that is a case of I can be ridiculed in those particular terms. So be aware of that. It's neither here nor there as far as you are concerned. It's certainly not gay, and it's not lesbian. It's not perverse or any of the rest of it. It's just a difference in view. You know, there's, and it gets more involved than that. So be prepared for that. But remember, I am not involved. I'm telling you to think for yourself. I'm telling you to investigate and prove the evidence is true or false for yourself. I'm telling you to make sure that those who present evidence to you know that if they fail, if they lie, they're going to go to prison or even worse. Because we can't afford to have liars telling us what to do or what to believe. We have to know what is true. So learn what the evidence is. Learn how much water you have, because you don't have nearly as much water as you think. Learn where the poisons sit at. Learn it, because without water you're going to die. And the apocalypse will come, which is a war for water. Learn what they're doing to your nature. Learn what they intend to do with your nature, which is to mix all the genetic material together as they've done and create a new species so they can say, hooray, we are God. They're not God. They will never be God. And they can only be Satan. And that's just the facts of life. They can only be Satan. So religion ought to be aware of that. They can be aware of that. They just prove to be cult members that align themselves with the university as God. And as a result, they have lost their way. And need to identify what is or is not true in each and every religion. Because, unless you're going to be truthful, unless you're going to protect life, and protect the earth, and protect the future so that everybody doesn't die, as is the state of our existence, because we are so many people and there are so many things threatening us that we are certain to die if we don't change, and we are certain to die in a very near future. Beyond what you can comprehend, just consider the idea of bringing the same fire here to this earth. There are maybe 50 large experiments going on around the earth right now, and all those, in one single instant could happen today. In one single instant, your ability to intervene and say, stop, ends, because they ignited a fire. A 1,000,000-mile long flame, so they say, is what's on the sun. 4 times, longer than the moon is to the earth. And of course it will aim back, throughout the atmosphere and so on. But you cannot wait to see what happens when they're wrong. Because the price of being wrong, just in that one thing. And if you have to start somewhere, and you do have to start somewhere, start there, because they are the worst of the worst of the worst, even though they're not very far away from those who mutilate nature and all the rest. It's still a case of these people, if an atomic fire is ignited, their plan is that it'll just extinguish itself. Well, that's a really bad plan. Is it not? A 1,000,000-mile long flame is just going to extinguish itself. They figure they're just going to start with a tiny little thing, and that way they can contain it. But they're putting in 50 million megawatts of electricity or some such thing over in it's France right now to run this machine. 50 million watts. And once they ignite the fire, all of the energy that's there is multiplied by 4 million times. That's the difference between TNT and an atomic bomb. So an atomic fire is basically the same thing, taking out the same energy over a little bit longer length of time. We can't control the fire. go ahead and investigate them. If it proves to be that, they're grand and they're great and everybody is happy with that gamble, then so be it. It's your world too. You can't wait for them. You have to do it now, because in an instant, one instant, if they ignite a fire, you're done. Your world is done. Your future is done. Your child is done. Everything ends in that one single ignition of fire. And they don't call it fire, but it is fire. Feel the heat from 94 million miles away.